Okay, today we're going to go over dealership users inside the admin menu. To access the admin menu, you're going to click on the gear icon on the lower left-hand side of the screen right here where it says admin. Dealership users can be found in two places. It can be found here on the upper right-hand side under popular, and it can also be found under dealership setup. We're going to go ahead and go into dealership users. A couple things that we want to look at. Are there any users that need to be reactivated? So if there was a time that a user had to leave the dealership for a few months, or maybe they went and worked for a competitor and then came back, rather than create them a new profile, we can actually find their old profile simply by clicking the status button right here and checking the box for inactive. When we do this, this is going to show in red users who are currently inactive. So if we were to take Andrew, for example, and we wanted to reactivate Andrew, we would just click on his profile. And then we would simply click the inactive button and check the box for active. Once this is done, there's no account email on this one, so it's not going to work for me. I'm in a test site. But once that's done, you would want to go ahead and probably send a password reset that would be located up here next to the clone button on an active user. The next thing I wanted to show you would be how to inactivate a user. So, like for example, let's say that Bill, for example, was going to be marked inactive as he, maybe left, went to work for a competitor, or is just no longer working for the dealership. All we have to do is click on the word active and uncheck the box, and at that point, hit save. And as simple as that, he is now inactive. Again, to switch him back, it's pretty easy. All we have to do is just check the active box and switch it back. If the user has any opportunities assigned to them, it will prompt you to reassign those opportunities that are assigned to that individual. It'll take you to our reassignment tool. There's another video on here for that we can take a look at as well. Go mark inactive. Okay. The next question would be, do we need to add any new users? So there's two ways we can do that. The quickest way to do that would be to find a user that already exists on the team that you want that user to be on. So for example, if there was Brent right here, and we wanted to add somebody else to that BDC sales team, on Brent's profile, all we would need to do is go ahead and click clone in the upper right-hand side, and then we can add all the information that we need. If you notice, the franchise is already correct, the manager's correct, the team's correct, and the job title, so we don't have to input any of that information. We would just have to input the rest of the information. The other way that you can add a user is on the dealership users page. There's a new button in the upper right-hand side. We're gonna go ahead and click that. And at that point, you would add their first name, their last name, of course, all of their information. A couple things to note here: the manager box is going to tie a manager to that salesperson for a couple reasons. If there's a campaign that has manager of assigned listed as somebody that's going to be given a task, such as the lost review campaign that a lot of dealerships have set up, those tasks would go to whoever's listed here. Or if there's an email going out that has the code snippet for manager of assigned listed, that individual will be listed on that email as well. So just keep in mind that's where that's going to go. The other thing to keep in mind, DMS deal ID or DMS employee ID, this is their employee number in the DMS. This has to be filled in if sold deals that are coming back from the DMS are going to be assigned to that individual. Oftentimes we'll see a sold deal come across and be assigned to your friend's ad and then whatever dealership that it's in. A lot of cases, the reason it's doing that is because it's not matching up a DMS ID because the user does not have a DMS ID listed, or it has the incorrect DMS ID listed on their profile. Moving down, the account email. This is the email where the email verification is going to be sent along with their temporary ID and their username, or sorry, their temporary password and their username. So this doesn't necessarily have to be an email address that's tied to the store. Just keep in mind that it's not going to be customer facing. This is simply used for account verification and password resets. The next box is going to be the reply email box. This is used for the reply address that's going to be listed in Dealer Socket. One thing to note is we always want to use a reply address that's listed down below here. Generally, most dealerships will have a rep reply unless they have a different setup right here. We would want to just use the rep reply address. One thing that we don't want to see is you can actually manually fill out a reply address right here. One thing to note is that if the reply address is not listed down here, those emails that come back, that the customer would email back, do not end up in Dealer Socket. So we want to make sure that we're using an email address that's listed down here in this, this dropdown. Okay. Another thing to note, this preferred phone option, if you use the salesperson's phone code snippet on an email, this is the field that that's going to pull from. So ideally, we would probably want to list the salesperson's cell phone number right here also. A couple other things to take a look at when we set up a user. If you are using any sort of call tracking instruments, you would want to get them set up in, for example, Car Wars, and grab their phone IDs and add their phone IDs in these fields right here. If we wanted to set up a web lead or text alert, we can go ahead and add a web lead or an email address right here, or we can add a text alert right here. All we need is their cell phone number and whoever their cell phone provider is going to be. This is only if they are the first people that are going to be receiving leads. Okay. The last thing that I would take a look at is going to be down here, the second column over from the right, permission to text, dealer instant message, and group message. We always want to make sure that permission to text is turned on, assuming that you guys have the Socket Talk tool, and we want to make sure that dealer instant message is turned on. Dealer group message, I would leave this as a manager permission, and only turn this on for managers so that managers can mass message the sales staff if they so choose to do so. The other thing over here on the left-hand side of there is the scheduling. If your dealership has, if this individual is going to receive internet leads and your internet leads are set up to round robin by schedule, we'd want to make sure that the box is checked for include in people scheduling, so that this individual would be included in the scheduling. You'd still have to go in and adjust their schedule so that they would be on the schedule, but they will not show up in that tool if this is not checked. The second thing would be if this is a somebody that should have the ability to adjust that schedule, we'd want to go ahead and click the lower box here that says allow edit of team schedule. So that pretty much goes over how to add a user. The next thing that we want to take a look at is going to be just kind of reviewing some of the employees that we have. I'm just going to click on George, for example, right here. And I'm just going to go over a few things that we commonly see when we're looking at sites in Dealer Socket. I'm actually going to move to, let's go back to Brent, because I think Brent had a lot of the more information filled out here. Okay, so first off, we always want to make sure that they are listed on the right team. Oftentimes, we will see that in Dealer Socket, we'll go into a store and we'll see that a lot of people are listed on the administrator team. Oftentimes, this happens because there may be a permission or a feature that that individual does not have access to, and rather than going through permissions and adding that permission to the team that that individual's on, we kind of take the shortcut, we take the easy way out and add them to the administrator team. The problem with that is that gives that individual basically access to everything in Dealer Socket. So if that's the case and you have that situation with your store, reach out to your CSM and you guys can go over what permissions each team needs and make sure that those people are on the correct team. We talked about the correct preferred phone. Going forward, let's make sure that this is the salesperson's cell phone number. And then another thing that I've noticed, that I notice from time to time, is some of these fields that you have to manually fill out. I've seen, like, for example, a name or a job title, all in caps. Generally, it's because whoever inputted that information might have just been in the DMS, and like like most DMSs, all the commands have to be in caps. So we didn't switch that back. One thing to keep in mind, however it's presented here is going to be how it's presented in the emails and stuff that go out when we use a job title code snippet or a salesperson's name code snippet, so on and so forth. So make sure that we don't have any all caps information filled out here. Obviously, we talked about the reply address prior to this. We want to make sure that the correct job title, again, this is the code snippet for job title that's going to carry on to emails. So we want to make sure that that's listed correctly. We talked about the DMS ID. We want to make sure that this is correct so that sold deals come back to that individual. And then again, call management, we want to make sure that these call management fields are filled out if you guys are using that. And then any click to call alternatives. With call management, if the preferred phone is filled in, this is the phone number that will be used with click to call. If you have any phone numbers listed right here for the click to call alternative 1 and the click to call alternative 2, they will also be options to call with click to call. Again, coming down a little bit further on these other settings, if we want them included in scheduling, it's really simple. We can just check that, make sure that we check it for sales and not service unless that individual needs to be included in service if you've got our service tool. Again, allow edit of team schedule. We want to make sure that everybody has permission to text, instant message, all those sort of things. Other than that, I mean, that's pretty much the basics of making sure that our dealership users are set up correctly. The last thing that I'll add really quick, this is dependent on how your dealership sends emails. If you guys are in a process of always using the blank template that should have been provided by your dealer socket CSM or at install that has kind of a signature built into it, you don't necessarily need to edit the signature. But if you guys have individual signatures for all your salespeople that are unique, you can go ahead and click edit signature and go ahead and add a signature for that salesperson. This can be done, just via simple text. You can create your own HTML file, make it look even more professional, those sort of things, but it can be done right there. If you have any other additional questions about adding, editing, or removing dealer socket users, give your CSM a call. They can help you out with it.